You know, in a world where security threats seem to change by the minute, you have to ask yourself, are the old ways of training still good enough? Today, we're going to talk about a huge shift in security thinking. We'll look at how we can move from just reacting to problems to building genuine resilience, equipping people not just to handle a crisis, but to actually anticipate it and perform under incredible pressure.
All right, here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll dig into the modern threat landscape to see what we're really up against. Then, we'll talk about the insane pressure on our security professionals. After that, we'll introduce a new philosophy for training and show you a specific solution called the Sets Ryu approach. And finally, we'll talk about how partnering up is really the key to total security. So, first things first, let's talk about the threat landscape. This is where we get right to the heart of it and ask that really tough question. Are the security methods we've relied on for years actually enough for today's world?
I mean, really think about this for a second. Whether you're a manager or an officer on the ground, it's one thing to have a security team. It's something else entirely to have a team whose skills are sharp enough for the challenges we face right now. Is your training just ticking a box, or is it building real functional capability?
Okay, let's look at some cold, hard data, because this is something we just can't afford to ignore. This isn't about feelings or perceptions, it's what the numbers are telling us. Across the EU, and right here in Finland specifically, we are seeing a clear and honestly a pretty worrying upward trend in assaults, thefts, and other violent crimes. The risk is real, and it's growing.
And this right here, this highlights a really dangerous gap. The general public often thinks that crime is either stable or maybe even going down. But the statistical reality tells a completely different, much more urgent story of rising threats. That gap? That's the space where security professionals have to operate every single day. And frankly, it's one of their biggest challenges.
We also have to challenge some of our old assumptions, especially about technology. We put so much faith in tools like CCTV. But you know what? The research shows it's not the magic wand we think it is, especially when it comes to violent crime. Sure, it's great for getting evidence after something terrible has happened, but it does very little to actually prevent it. Technology is a tool, a valuable one, but it can never, ever replace a well-trained, aware person on the ground. So if technology isn't the whole answer, all that pressure lands squarely on the shoulders of the people on the front line. Let's talk about that for a minute. The incredible pressure on security professionals. The human element right at the sharp end.
There's this old saying among martial artists, and wow, it really cuts right to the bone, doesn't it? For a security officer, one wrong move, a single split-second bad decision can change everything. Not just physically, but legally, financially, for the rest of their life. The stakes are just unbelievably high.
And this pressure, it comes from every direction. Physically, you've got the constant threat of a confrontation. Psychologically, you're dealing with massive stress and have to make crystal clear decisions in an instant. Legally, it's a minefield of self-defense laws and liability. And on top of all that, ethically, every single thing you do has to be appropriate and reasonable. It's this complex juggling act that, let's be honest, basic training just doesn't prepare you for.
So, when you look at all those pressures, it becomes pretty obvious that we need a completely new training philosophy. It is time to move past the outdated methods and embrace an approach that prepares people for the reality of the job, not just for passing a test.
And the guiding principle for this new way of thinking is actually simple, but it's incredibly profound. Sound in body, sound in mind. This is so much more than just learning physical moves. It's a holistic approach. It understands that your mental resilience, your ability to think clearly under pressure, that's every bit as important as your physical skill.
So how do we actually do that? Well, the answer is something called functional education. Look, this is not about learning some technique in a sterile classroom that you'll forget a week later. This is about making sure that every single skill you learn has one purpose: to work, for real, in a high-stress situation out in the world.
And here's where you can really see the difference. Traditional training, a lot of it becomes what you might call a cultural antique, techniques that just aren't relevant anymore. Or it gets too focused on sport, which just doesn't translate to the street. Functional training is different. It's an integrated system that pulls together physical skills, mental resilience, and de-escalation tactics, all the things you actually need on the job.
And that brings us to a specific solution that's been designed for exactly these modern challenges. Let's take a look at the Sets Ryu approach, which is a system all about building real-world capability and, just as importantly, real confidence. Now, at the heart of this solution is the AARM framework,
That stands for Assault, Awareness, and Risk Management. And as you can see, it's a complete system. It starts with identifying risks and trying to de-escalate, then moves to practical self-protection, and it's all supported by psychological resilience and a solid understanding of the legal and ethical lines you have to walk. It's a true 360-degree approach to training.
And building on that AARM foundation, you have the SOCIMS course. This is designed specifically for the pros on the front lines. So whether you're a supervisor handling public order or a security guard in a store, this course sharpens those critical skills of conflict intervention, control, and management. It's all about giving your team the tools to do their job safely and effectively, which lowers the risk for absolutely everyone.
And this training isn't just based on theory. It's built on a foundation of proven, real-world expertise. We're talking a master's degree in security and risk management, professional certifications, and more than a decade of frontline experience, right here in Finland. It's the perfect mix of high-level academic knowledge and hard-earned street smarts. So what does all of this mean for your organization? Well, the last piece of this puzzle is partnership. This is about working together, co-creating a safer, more resilient environment for your team, your clients, and your customers.
And that collaboration can look like a lot of different things, all tailored to what you actually need. We can develop custom courses, create top-notch training content for both online and in-person learning, and run hands-on workshops. At the end of the day, the goal is always the same. Elevate your team's skills, boost their confidence, and seriously reduce your organization's overall risk. We'll leave you with this one powerful thought from Thomas Jefferson: action will define you. In a world of increasing risk, sticking with outdated training, that's a choice. It's a form of inaction. So the real question is, what action are you going to take to build a team that isn't just prepared, but is truly resilient?